Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Rage Against the Regime Radio, where status quo is taken to task. With your host, Bobby Who's the Man. Don't be a stranger. Give us a call at 929-477-3565 or contact us at rageagainsttheregimepodcast@gmail.com or on our Twitter at RATR Podcast. And please like our Facebook page. On with the show. Here's Bobby.
Hello. Wow, I think I'm actually on. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm actually on the airwaves of Rage Against the Regime Radio. What do you know? Could it be true? Is it true?
Yeah.
Becky,
you are now.
There? Oh, Mr. Bill DiGirolamo.
How are you, Bobby? I was wondering what happened to you guys.
You know, I was actually wondering what happened to us, too. All of a sudden, the show came up. Now Becky's calling me on the other line. Hang on one second.
Avoid the mute button. You're going to have to bring an acoustical guitar player with you everywhere you go so that you have background music at all times.
Yeah. Sorry, and that was actually Becky calling because she was muted and she couldn't be heard. So
that's right.
I think she finally fixed it. There she is.
Can you hear me? You guys had me outside looking for black helicopters, thinking it was me.
I think it's all of us, brother. I think it's all of us. Well, today we have a very, very, very special guest.
Definitely.
I mean, we've been plugging it all over the place. Mr. Cliven Bundy. Yes, you heard it right. Mr. Cliven Bundy from the Bundy Ranch will be joining us at 4:15. So about 7 minutes from now, Mr. Bundy will be gracing us with his presence. So we are really, really looking forward to that. So I think right now would be a good time to catch up on anything else we need to catch up on, because once Mr. Bundy calls in, we're going to be going balls to the wall talking about what's going on with the Bundy Ranch, what's going on with the BLM, what he thinks about the current situation in Oregon, and then I want to ask him what he thinks that we need to do to try to lock our borders down. So we're going to have a lot of questions for Mr. Bundy. I would like everybody right now that's calling to listen to Mr. Bundy, ask him questions, so on and so forth. Start getting online right now. 929-477-3565. 929-477-3565. You're probably going to have to wait a little while, but I'm telling you right now, Mrs. Bundy made it very clear to me she's not sure how long we're going to have Cliven on. So by all means, we need to take advantage of every little bit that we have. So start lighting up those phone lines right now if you want to talk or ask a question to Mr. Bundy. And when you do, it's going to be only a very brief question, one question per person, and we're probably going to have to go through the phone calls very quickly. We can't have people on for a long period of time like we usually do. So, that's that. So what's going on with you two?
Well, I was just thinking when you were talking, when you mentioned asking him about what he thinks about border control and stuff, I think that what he saw on his property was a small live rehearsal of that same idea and that same strategy about how people are involved and the commitment. We just have to force apply that to our borders.
Absolutely. absolutely. But you know what? I mean, the man's already faced it all. You know what I mean? He's already been through, I mean, none of us could ever imagine going through what he's already went through. I mean, he's battled the government and he's beat them. How many people can say that you had a standoff with the government and the government said, yeah, we're going to turn around and leave because we don't want no part of it? You know what I mean? Not too many people can say that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. So
yeah, I think we're in store for a lot more of that, and I just don't know how quickly it's going to happen. I'm more concerned about what's happening while behind just the mention of Jade Helm and these other things we're seeing. I'm just kind of concerned more than I even was before.
Well, I can tell you this much. I'm going to take it to the front door of Governor Abbott. He's probably not going to like me very much when I get it done. But I have a suggestion. We've got this lip service like Perry pulled on us with the DPS going down to help the Border Patrol. He wants to, and this is about the most retarded statement I think I've ever had the displeasure of hearing a person in power make, which was, I'm going to take my state guard and I'm going to have them monitor the military forces in Texas that are doing the Jade Helm operation. I mean, it's hysterical if you think about it. I mean, I don't know whether to laugh or scream because that's just about the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. It's so funny. This border is wide open in Texas, okay? People are pouring through, invading America through the gates of hell right here in my backyard. And the governor has not offered to take our state guard and put them down there to close that border off. He hasn't offered to call on the militia to do so. We know that we have terrorist cells here. So I'm going to invite Governor Abbott to do the right thing as a commander-in-chief of the state of Texas. I'm going to invite him to do what Colorado does, and I'm going to invite him to say no to Jade Helm. They no reason to have their operation here. They need to leave.
You know what bugged me? Today I was listening to something that somebody sent me about the state of Texas, and I believe it was on the Alex Jones show. Yeah, I believe that's what I was listening to, maybe the Alex Jones show. And what a love fest they had for your governor. Oh, my God, he's the best ever, and, he's standing up for the border and this and that, and what a love fest. And I was getting sick. Because I'm sitting there thinking, really? I mean, I know that Alex Jones says a lot of things that's kind of, kind of iffy, but, I mean, to sit there and kiss Abbott's ass, it's like, come on. What are you looking at? What do you see that I don't see, So,
well,
whoever's running the board, whoever's... Go ahead.
It's me, Bobby. I'm
you're running the board. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see his number.
Okay.
I don't see his number.
Well, maybe there's a strategy going on there in Texas. They're going to try to get as much hardware and equipment in to confiscate the state of Texas as they can.
Right. Sounds like they got a lot of trains rolling through there too, man, with a lot of equipment, and what a nightmare.
Yeah, no kidding.
I got tired of waiting on my new MRAP, so I just went down and traded my car in, I heard that once I tried.
Right. Hey, Becky, when they brought the DPS in with the border situation last year, it was, I think, when they made the big to-do about we're going to take a stand and we're going down there ourselves, and wasn't that the time when the majority of the Patriot action and response was curtailed, and that not only did nothing happen, but they actually opened it up so that there could be more crossing and less oversight by the private citizen, or the private civilian, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, you're correct. See, what happened was I threw down with the Stand in the Man rally. I was going to take constitutional sheriff with me and a few thousand of my closest buddies, and we were going to go down to Austin, and we were going to demand that the commander-in-chief at the time, who was Perry, do his job, okay, as commander-in-chief of the state of Texas. And
right.
I swear to God, I announced it on the radio on Monday. By Tuesday, after endless calls, petitions, raising hell, sending emails, doing everything we could to get a response out of Perry concerning the border issue, I throw down with, all right, we're going down there, standing the man, he's going to do his job, and he's going to do it.
Are you waking up that heat?
Maybe
your window's open.
No, it's not me. I'm home now. So, anyway, I throw down with a stand in the man, and I've got all the support behind me to do it. And then suddenly Tuesday, he's on Hannity. He's all over the news. He's going to do this big thing at the border. He's been begging Obama for 2 years for federal funding. What the hell is that? We have our own means to secure the border, and we have every right to do so. State of Texas, we border a foreign nation. We know a lot of hostiles come out of there, the drug cartel. We have every right to do without any federal approval or funding, period. And so then he says, I'm going to send the DPS down there. And so he sends the DPS, and guess what the DPS is? Now under the control of Department of Homeland Security, run by the Muslim Brotherhood, run by the UN, One World Government, and Washington. And so their directive to the Border Patrol is now the same directive for the DPS. Then he says he's going to send our state guard down there, but it's going to take 45 days to deploy them. Well, they go down there, they're unarmed. Now they're under the same directive by the DHS to stand down, to assist, and not resist. And now it gets even worse than that. So now Perry's out of office. We back off the stand in demand. He buys his time because he's not running again, which, by the way, Mr. Perry, you're still going to be held accountable for tyranny, okay? Just want you to know, just because you stepped down doesn't mean you're exonerated from your crimes. That'd be like me robbing a bank. The 6 months went by, and now I'm not guilty. You're guilty, okay? You're guilty of the invasion. So when he said he was going to send the DPS down there, Dewhurst, I like to call him Doofhurst, he starts asking the DHS for $3 million in allocation to cover the funds of the DPS operation. We contact the head of DPS, and they don't even have an SOP. They tell us that they have never trained for, set up a standard operating procedure for anything like what they're about to do down on the border. Now, how retarded is that?
Well, that should be under their primary purpose right there. I mean, the Department of Homeland Security wasn't supposed to be what it's become, but it was specifically supposed to prevent outside terrorism from coming in, which would have to include the border, wouldn't you think?
Well, they've orchestrated that. He's not on, Bobby. He's not on yet, brother.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm listening. His area code is not popping up.
Because I didn't tell him to press number one. I never said press number one, so I don't know.
No. I'm looking at the numbers on the board, and I do not see his number anywhere.
Okay. All right, maybe just a few minutes behind. I don't know. I can't actually go into Facebook right now. If anybody has Carol Bundy on your friends list, maybe you can give her, send her a message and say,
Let's see.
I've got Carol Bundy's phone number. I can send her a text message. Let me go in here and find Carol. Anyway, so that's just how ridiculous it is. And then, you've got Abbott standing up here telling us he's going to send our guard to babysit the military. Well, Mr. Abbott, I have a question for you. Why the hell haven't you put them on the border? Why haven't you moved our border back where it's supposed to be, not 45 miles or 100 miles inside of American soil, because then that gives those little cockroaches the rights that have been given by executive order by Bush and Obama to go through a immigration process, a court, and representation, and start, draining the funds in the state of Texas for deportation, and the deportation is blocked now. So why don't we just move the border back where it's supposed to be, Mr. Abbott? Why don't we take our regulated militia, Mr. Abbott, and an armed National Guard, and why don't we seal off that 1,200 miles of border and go ahead and use any means necessary, just like I campaigned for when I was running for governor. That means that any means necessary to assure there is no breach on that border. And then, Mr. Abbott, I propose that you cut all funding off for every foreign national that has come over here and is sucking off of the government. That's right, I said it. Cut it off immediately. I'm talking about right now. Listen, until we have no more homeless Americans in the state of Texas, I want to see one benefit go to a foreign invader for housing and for groceries and for a car or the job. I don't want to see it. I want to see my Texas children that are homeless to be in a stable environment. If need be, assist them to do that, and obviously they need it. And I want them in that school seat that you're sucking $2,000 a kid for a foreign national to sit in, a foreign invader. You're paying the school district $2,000 of the federal funds that come into the state to put them in school with our kids. Number one, they're gang members. They bring in diseases. There's a language barrier. You know, it's just ridiculous. So, Mr. Abbott, I'm going to ask you to do the right thing, and then I'm going to ask you to look under the U.S. Code, Section 1324. It's Article 1324 under Section 8, U.S. Code. I want you to fully understand what aiding and abetting the enemy is, what treason is, and what the penalty is for doing that. Your first duty to this state is to assure there is no foreign invasion and that the citizens are secure, that we're safe and secure. And, sir, we are not. And I want you to deny the federal government, the UN, the global governance that we're under. I don't want any more Muslims brought in here under a refugee status and dumped in Texas. They're not going through a background check. They're bringing diseases in, and they're the foot soldiers. Listen, there is no moderate Muslim. If they follow the Quran, they all have the same agenda. And that is to take everything away from the infidel and to kill the infidel. We either convert or die. And whenever the bell rings, that is why they're here. So, Mr. Abbott, I'm going to ask you to put a task force out for the terror cells that are already here. I'm going to ask you to secure the border with our guard, and they don't need to be babysitting Jade Hillman. I'm sorry, you guys, for ranting and raving. That's my...
I'm sorry, excuse me. Carol Bundy told me that Cliven is on the line, and he just pressed 1, so...
I got him on. I'm going to bring him on. Okay, all right, Bobby, I've got Mr. Bundy on. Bobby? I guess we've lost Bobby. Hello, Cliven. How are you doing, sir? It's Becky Williams.
Good.
Welcome to Ray.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to thank you for coming to the show. I do apologize. We had a little bit of technical issues ourselves, so it's okay if you're running a little bit behind. I don't know where Bobby went. I'm thinking he may have dropped off, but I'm sure he'll call back in a moment. I've got Bill DeGeromo on the phone with me. Say hi to Bill.
Hi, sir.
Hello. Tell me, this is Phil or Bill?
It's Bill.
Bill.
Bill. Okay,
like a
thank
guy
you,
with
sir.
no arms and no legs in your mailbox.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, Cliven, again, thank you for coming on, brother. We wanted to touch base with you. I know Bobby has a lot of questions for you as well, but we wanted to touch base with you, see how you were doing since the incident out at the ranch, how your family's doing, and give us an indication or information on anything that may be developing with your current situation with the BLM.
Okay, and it's thank you for inviting me. It's I'm always happy to talk to the nation and the world and the people. I hope I have something that I can say that's good. But I do have good news, and that is, for the past year, there on Bundy Ranch, this part of Clark County, Nevada, is probably the freest place on earth. And what I mean by that was we haven't had no overreach of the federal government, and we haven't even seen a federal license plates in this part of the area. So we really have enjoyed some freedom and liberty, and we've been able to ranch, and the public has been able to access their land and hunt and fish and camp and off-road. We've actually enjoyed some freedom in the past year.
You're talking about your whole county there now.
Excuse me on that. I didn't hear you again.
You're talking about your whole county there now, from what you're seeing.
Well, not the whole county, but the northeast corner of the county, which is about 600,000 acres. We have really enjoyed freedom, and we haven't had any interference from the federal government, very little activity from the state or the local government. They've just totally stayed away from here, and we've actually enjoyed some freedom.
Hello, Mr. Bundy. This is Bobby Ritter. I actually dropped off. I was just actually sending your wife a message, at the time, and I have to drop off because these stupid cell phones, they don't allow you to be on the phone and be on the Internet at the same time. So welcome aboard, sir. It's such a pleasure to have a man of your stature on our show. I cannot tell you how ecstatic I am and our listening audiences to have a gentleman of your stature on our show. You are an American hero to us. I mean, you stood up to the government, and you and we the people stood up to the government and got them to back down. And, I mean, you are one of a kind when it comes to that, because not too many people said that, they stood up to a tyrant and beat the tyrant and got them off their property. And, and we applaud you for that, sir.
Well, thank you. And I understand what's happened, but I don't want to take all the credit. It's got to be we the people that takes the credit, because when we the people stood at Bundy Ranch, we got results, and the result is the federal government backed off and left this ranch and left this part of the Clark County. And as I was speaking here a few minutes before, we are probably the freest people on earth right now. We have not had a government overreach of this in this area. In fact, we haven't even seen a government vehicle in 1 year. And it's been an enjoyable way to ranch and live without the depression of overreach of law, and government.
Absolutely. Well, we had Buddha on a couple of weeks ago. Buddha's a friend of the show, and he was telling us, how you guys are just enjoying it out there, and you're loving the freedom, as you're saying. And he was explaining to us, the same thing that you're saying right now. But I think one question everybody would ask you, and now I know that it's going to be a tough question to answer, but I know that you're knowing what's going on in Oregon right now, okay, with the whole minor situation.
I'm somewhat familiar with it. Yes.
Okay. What would you give them if you could give them any advice? What kind of advice would you give them in their fight against the BLM right now?
My advice to them is quit worrying about the BLM, quit worrying about the federal government in a sense. They do not have no jurisdiction and authority there, so turn their attention to those that do have jurisdiction and authority. That would be the governor of Oregon and the county commissioners of that particular county and the county sheriff. Hold them people accountable. They're supposed to be protecting that miner's life, liberty, and property, and they're supposed to make sure that the people of that community have access to their public land, and use the resources. And the gold and silver, whatever's in that mine, is part of the resources. That's the economy of that town. And so don't worry about the feds. Hold the local, we the people, the ones that we the people elected, officials with proper jurisdiction authority, hold their feet to the fire and make them do their job.
Well, one question that I kind of raise is, I'm wondering if their timing was right in doing the action that they're doing up there with the whole Jade Helm situation going on and, other things that are going on in our country right now. I'm wondering if it's a ploy or if it's actually, something that they're really doing. But I'm wondering if there's something, somewhat of a bigger picture here than what we're really being shown, Well,
it's hard to tell, but there's one thing for sure. That is that they're in Oregon over that mine. It's one more Bundy Bundy Ranch, where the federal government's coming in and trying to assert their unlimited power, and that was what's happened, and that needed to be crushed. And it's hard to crush something like that. And my advice is don't holler wolf before you get all of these military and all of these people all stirred up. Don't holler wolf until you have to do that. But one thing that was necessary is the stand had to be made. And so the miners, we the people, and the militia made that stand this last couple of weeks. And so the BLM knows they're not going to just walk in there and walk over some individual and ruin his invested interest in this mine. That's not going to happen. Not in Oregon. It's not going to happen no more.
Do you think that some of the people that came out to your ranch that were part of the supposed BLM at the time may have been contracted mercs or, people of, other, contracted, departments and stuff like that? Because those,
I don't know that for sure. I don't know that for sure, and I'd have no ID for really. I know there was people there with different kinds of uniforms on. I know there was at least 2 or 3 agents, BLM, Park Service, and probably Fish and Wildlife. I know those 3 agencies were there. But whether there's actually some hired contract army there, I don't know. All I know is they were government agents in government vehicles, and they had big guns. I know that.
Absolutely. Yeah, because, some of those guys didn't look like just a regular park ranger to me. Some of them just looked, they looked like, people that were professional, military people or militia people, kind of like Buddha, kind of like, other people that, that's what they do for a living. So.
Well, this is a sad thing in America. These bureaucracies, to name it like BLM, for example, they have their own army now, and that was they were showing that army off at Bundy's Ranch. And so that's a scary thing when these bureaucracies that's within America have these armies already established and ready to fight we the people. And that was what happened at Bundy Ranch, is we've seen that. And they was openly religion towards we the people and actually showed their colors, and of course that's what we the people did. We showed our colors. We're not going to put up with that. Not here in America. We're not going to put up with that no more.
Yes, sir. Now, have they actually tried to bring you to court since then, or have they just dropped it and went away?
They've just dropped it and run away. I haven't seen any court papers.
Very good. Very good.
There are some things that are still pending, but no action. We the people, they were over 30 criminal complaints filed with the county sheriff and the district attorney of the Clark County, and they have never made any kind of move on any of those complaints. So there's 30 criminal complaints that the local sheriff has never dealt with.
Right. Yeah, that was outstanding. I mean, every video that we saw, and my favorite one, of course, being the day that the cows were coming home, and I love what you said when you went on stage. You were like, we're ready to bring the cows back and this and that. And then you said that you wanted them to unarm themselves. And I was just like, I couldn't believe my ears at the time. I was like, holy cow, you're asking them, to put their guns down. Chances of that happening is slim and none. But you know what? We applaud you, sir. By all means, we applaud you.
Well, that was really I felt like I was sort of inspired to say that. And that was very important because, if that sheriff would have took those guns, disarmed them bureaucrat, we wouldn't have had to make that stand. Those people wouldn't have had to face those guns. That sheriff would have took care of the problem, but he didn't do that, and that's why we, the people, had to go and face it and face those that army.
Well, what do you see for the future for us, and maybe what do you think that we could possibly do to kind of hold off what's going on with our government right now? I mean, it's everybody is awake now. I mean, anybody that needs to be awake should be awake by now, knowing what's going on with all the alphabet agencies. Our borders are wide open. We're having all these illegals coming in, so on and so forth. I mean, what do you see could be the future, and what do you think we need to do to change it?
Well, I think you brought up the answer. You heard me say, and I was representing we the people when I said it, and said, the county sheriff, take those arms away from the bureaucrats. Disarm the bureaucrats is what we said. Well, it was only a couple of days later, and I said, made another statement. I said there's 3,100 county sheriffs across the United States. You 3,100 county sheriffs take those arms away from those bureaucrats. And, then I had a feeling. The feeling was if our sheriff don't take these arms away from these bureaucrats, we the people are going to have to face that army and face them guns someday. And that's what I really don't want to see happen. I don't want to see we the people have to fight we the people in a civil war. And that's the feeling I got. If they don't take the guns away from these bureaucrats, we're going to have to face those guns.
Yes, sir. I think we're pretty much already at that point, and I hate to say it, and it's sad to say, and I brought this up to Buddha the same, and I think he kind of agreed with we were kind of on the same level. That I think what it's going to take for anything to really be done is I think it's going to take bloodshed, and I hate to say that. It's a bad thing to say, and nobody wants that.
Let me talk about bloodshed a little bit. Nobody wants that, but we didn't have bloodshed at Bundy Ranch standoff. And, of course, I have to give the good Lord a lot of the credit for that, maybe all the credit for that. But there have been other instances, too. Let's talk like that incident we had here in, I want to say Boston, the riot here just a couple of days ago in Baltimore. Yeah, Baltimore.
Yes, sir, Baltimore.
You've seen one day where they're rioting and burning and just one heck of a mess. And then you see the next day when we, the people, line up in front of those, the people who are rioting, line up in a line, and we see we, the people didn't allow that to happen the second day. And you see that mother take down the son and straighten him out. Well, that was good examples of the world.
Yes, sir. I can see that.
Wasn't she great? We all got to see her love her son enough to say, hey, you're not going to take part in this, and I'm going to discipline you, and we're going to go home and have a little talk about this. That's the way it's supposed to be done in America. There was no bloodshed that day.
Right. We actually did a show and made a joke about it. And we said the mother probably told him to go home and grab a switch. And he probably got a little switch to that, but...
What I've seen of it, I don't think she needed a switch.
Yeah, you got that right. Becky, go ahead. I know you had some questions for Mr. Bundy.
Well, yeah, you pretty much covered it, brother. I mean, I'm of the same mind as Mr. Bundy. They need to be disarmed. I have my own opinions about the munitions that they're stockpiling. I have to say, Mr. Bundy, one of the things that's most disheartening to me is you explain that they have their own army. Well, we all know that the BLM is actually a foreign agency. And the fact that they stood armed on American soil is a declaration of war. It's an act of war. And they should have been taken into custody at that time, but you had a sheriff who failed. My question is, have you had elections in your area since then? And if so, I certainly pray that sheriff was displaced and replaced.
Well, he has been. He didn't run, though. He didn't run, but he was replaced by another man that was working in his administration. So we're not sure whether he's any better than the last man. But you are right. Let's talk about all of those arms and all of those bullets that we know the United States is buying. You know, those guns and that ammo is not meant for foreign enemies. That's meant for domestic enemies within ourselves. It's against we the people against we the people. And you know, where do we ever find in our Constitution or any state law or anything? Where do you find that our government can come against we the people like they did against Bundy Ranch? I mean, that is not acceptable in the United States.
Absolutely. That was a very socialist or a communistic move, and a very bold move. And I think, sir, they were trying to use you as a test run or an example of what they actually thought they could get away with. And,
well,
and
it
I'm
was,
so
and
proud. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, they were, and I have a lot of people ask, well, why would they go to that kind of force? They was wanting to make me an example. They wanted to show that they had unlimited power. They had, and that they had an army that could actually take care of, Bundy. They had their snipers pointed at my chest, not the world's chest. But before it was all over, the whole world knew about it, and the world has their sniper rifle pointed against their chest now. So things have really switched around.
Well, we
absolutely.
Let me ask you a question, sir. Until they destroyed unmercifully, in a very barbaric manner, they slaughtered many of your cattle. Have you had? Have they resolved any monetary loss that you suffered through that, or have they ignored that as well?
They have totally ignored it. They haven't said anything or did anything. They were like 30 criminal complaints against these people filed by we the people, and our sheriff or district attorney never took any action on any of those things. The sheriff and the BLM, just a couple of sort of hints in the media, I guess, was saying that Bundy is a criminal and he will stand charges for being a criminal. But my question was, who is the criminal here? Who is the criminal? Is it Cliven Bundy, or was it the bureaucracies of the federal government?
Well, we know the answer to that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe how they were out there manhandling the women. I believe it was your daughters and granddaughters, or whoever. And I mean, that to me was a very, very. That you couldn't stoop any further. You couldn't go any lower, than to do what they were doing. And watching that on TV was just like a sickening sight to the whole thing. But I mean, justice prevailed, to this extent. I just hope that you get, money back and resolved for, the cattle that you lost and, all the hard times that you had to go through. And, I don't know if it's true because, I'm just going by stuff that I've read, that they've tore up some of your water, ways to get water to some of the cattle, being out in the fields and stuff like that. And, I hope they get a lot of that resolved.
Well, that is true, but let me touch on something. When we're talking about what has the United States government did since the Bundy standoff, that brings something to my attention. They have did something, and when they talk about throwing down it was my sister that they actually threw down. They hip threw her, and the people have seen what happened to her on TV and on the internet. They threw her, a big man come up behind her, grabs her, and grabs about around the around her chest and throws her over his hip down on the ground hard as he could do it. Well, thousands of people seen that on the internet, maybe even millions. But let me tell you this is a current event. They were a guy, and I don't know his name except Will. Let's just call him Will. It's his first name. There's a Will in Pennsylvania that has got a criminal charge against him now for threatening a federal officer. The federal officer was the one that threw down my sister. He lives in Washington, the state of Washington, and this man lives in Pennsylvania. Now, he's been charged with a United States criminal offense of threatening a federal officer. Well, when I find out what this is all about, I guess he's seen this, my sister get through on the internet, the TV, and he made a phone call or on the internet. I don't know how he did it, but he threatened this officer, said basically, the son of a gun's not worth whatever, and said he ought to be whatever. And so now they got him on a criminal charge of threatening a federal officer. And this is a retaliation against Bundy Ranch because there's millions of people felt that way. That was the same thing that happened to my son Ammon when he went in front of my sister in defense, and they set the dogs on him and tased him. He was protesting that action that they did also. So now the federal government has picked one man out of the whole world and say we're going to make him example. He's a young man, 24 years old, and they're wanting to make him an example with a federal charge against him for threatening an officer.
Well, most of your family are on no-fly list also, aren't they?
It is. Buddha and I flew to Los Angeles. It's been almost a month ago now. And I went down to the Los Angeles area. I gave a talk for 20 minutes. It took us 20 hours to fly from Las Vegas down there and back. That's how much hassling we went through.
Wow.
20 hours to do a 20-minute talk.
Well, the same thing happened to your sons, too, right? One of your sons or something, he tried to fly?
Yes, Ammon, it's been going on every time he flies. Yes, it does. Same thing.
Wow. Well, can you take a few questions if we have a few people that may, have some questions that are on the phone? Or
I'd be happy to. I can stay with you for about maybe another 30 minutes. I'd be happy to do anything you want to do.
Good. Very good. Let me give out the number, 929-477-3565 for anybody that hasn't called in already, 929-477-3565 to ask questions to Mr. Bundy. Bill, do you have a question before we get callers?
I think that I should probably give them an opportunity to ask those questions. I get a lot of time on your show, and I definitely would like to speak with Clive. And I suppose one thing, you're talking about those 683,000 acres in your portion of the county that has been left to stand as it was intended, as state land. Most people don't realize that, there's a lot more to just limiting your ranching. The entire intention with that whole area was to remove the public access of private people from that ground to enjoy in any way, period.
Yeah, and they were locking it up and locking it away. And, one of the things that really excited the American people was when they took their First Amendment rights away in this area. And, remember they made these, I call them little pig pens, but they made these little round areas out of, red fencing, and then they hung a sign on it that said First Amendment area, and they had two of those on this part of the Clark County area. And what they were saying is that's the only place you can express your First Amendment rights. And that really upset people in America. They said that was part of the reason why people come to Bundy Ranch on the standoff is they wasn't going to put up with only 10 square feet. United States government can own 10 square miles, but they can't own 10 square feet that we have to exercise our First Amendment rights in. They can't do that in America.
I think that was a big deal also. Maybe that most people hadn't considered given what was at stake with the defense of your property and all the people there defending your ranching. I think that it was missed by a lot of people just what a big deal that was and how far it could have gone in that little test run of theirs to impose First Amendment centers. Oh, we're not affecting your First Amendment rights. We're creating these places to where they can be emphasized. Well, yeah, we know how that actually works. They would be seeing how their psyoping indoctrination can work against the whole people to think that.
Well, sure. I mean, the Bundy standoff was a big victory when people didn't pay attention to their First Amendment areas. And you ask about the access to the land here in this part of Nevada. That's what they're trying to do on this land. They're trying to lock the people away from the land, and then they're giving them like a backcountry byway, which is like a sidewalk down through the land. And they're saying, stay on the sidewalk. If you get off on the grass, we're going to give you a fee. And the fee is a $400 or $500 ticket. And that ruins everybody's picnic. And what's good is public land, and what if we can't go out there and enjoy it and use it? And what about making some good out of the resources that's here? This land has lots of resources on it. Grazing is only one resource. There's all kinds of recreation resources. There's mining, timber, oil, all of solar energy. All these resources are out there, and yet they want to lock us away from it.
Yeah, they want to keep it for their own contracts with whoever it is that they choose to make them with, which they have no right to do. Yeah. Hey, so there was something that had come up, I remember. It happened during a time when there had been some kind of a communication blackout, when people's cell phones suddenly weren't functioning well and people were having a tough time broadcasting out of there. But that there was a Indian reservation not too far from you who cooperated in being a host to patriots who needed a place to go or to gather or to kind of get themselves together. Are you still working closely with those people?
Well, I'm not really sure what you're talking about on there. I can't really, I don't know for sure. They are an Indian reservation here, they closed. But when you get back to the communication, one thing the government, the bureaucracy, their army, their camp, they put high-powered communication towers and stuff up in their military camp, and they closed airways. In other words, you couldn't fly. Airspace was closed, and I understood that they had a lot of people had interference with their internet and their radios. I don't know how they was doing that or who was doing it. All I know is I've had them kind of reports. I know even on our internet here at the house, there was a time that it just sort of like it was overloaded. I don't know, maybe it was overloaded or maybe there was interfering with it. But there was no doubt the federal government had unlimited power over communication here in this area, and they was, basically destroying and cutting it off, and they could tell. Here in my home, they knew every word I was saying, and they had that type of equipment here.
Yeah, I remember there were a group of people. Another gentleman out of Bobby's home state in Illinois who initiated several hours a day a broadcast regarding what was happening on your property there. There were people inside your property who were in communication with these other people, and they set up a blog talk, more like an open conference call with several hundred lines that could tie into it that they broadcast as a radio show. And there were people that were stuck on the road. Those roads had been closed at one point where, not only did they violate your land, they violated the highways and wouldn't let people have open, travel through that area. It made it very difficult. And so people were kind of waylaid with nowhere to go. And that's when someone from one of the Indian reservations, I really wish I could remember the tribe so that you guys could share your friendship together, but they were really concerned with what was happening with you as well, in support of you, and not wanting to see the American people also being treated the way they were. So they stepped up and offered their reservation, and there were directions and phone numbers, and people actually did divert to there until they could get better organized to make their way to you. And
that could be true. the interstate, we have the Interstate 15, I-15 runs through here. It goes basically the major highway from Los Angeles to Salt Lake City, or Los Angeles to New York, however you want to think of it. And that freeway was shut down. North and south lanes was shut down for several hours, but it was because of all of we, the people, that was accessing that road to the standoff area. And that was quite a sight to see, hundreds of cars backed up for miles going both directions. I wasn't really there on the site, so I can't tell you exactly what the attitude was, but there was a feeling of even those people that were stalled on the highway seemed to be okay with the fact that, hey, this was happening. They was sort of happy to be participating in the operation. And I can't tell you for sure, but they were stopped on the highway for hours, and yet when they went past, they honked their horns and they waved and they act like, hey, you guys are doing something good. Get her done.
Isn't that amazing? It's kind of like in the movie The Field of Dreams, where if you build it, they will come. Towards the end of the movie, where all of a sudden you see this long stretch of highway, which is what runs right past you, where suddenly it is completely and fully lined with vehicles. And in your case, it was, if you stand, we will come. And I was proud to see that.
Yeah, and it's hard to understand even for me, but again, talking about the same subject, here you have hundreds of cars, and I mean they're backed up for 40 miles on the north and south freeway lanes, hundreds of miles, and normally you'd think people would be just irate and just mad and just really mad for, but yet these people seem to be happy to be part of this. I don't know how to explain that.
Hey, something else occurred that was a big deal, at least from somebody who looks at it the way I do. I thought it was a very big deal. You had state senators and council people, chamber people from Arizona, Utah, Washington State, maybe some more, who showed up in your state, primarily in your county. I don't know if you met with them, but do you think that they influenced your county and kind of giving you more support? And do you feel that helped you?
Well, I don't know whether they influenced my county or not, but I think they influenced their own states, and I think they influenced we the people. I want to share something on that subject. I know we had quite a few legislators from Arizona, which is my neighboring state. We had some from, like I said, some from Nevada, some from Utah. But, after the April 12th, the standoff, and in towards the evening, we actually sort of celebrated our victory. The cows come home. And then towards night, then there was this rumor that there's drones, going to have a drone strike on Bundy's ranch. And even some of the militia and stuff was pretty upset, and some of them even left, the fear of it. But they were some of those legislators said, we're going to stand with you. And they come right to my home and stood right on my front lawn for hours, clear into after midnight, clear into the wee hours of the morning. And they said if the United States is going to strike Bundy with any kind of strike, as drone strike, they're going to have to kill Nevada, state representatives. And there was some from Arizona and some from Nevada, and I think there's even some from Utah. And they stayed right here at my home with me to protect me and said, if you die, we're going to die with you. And when I go back and think about this, where else could you get a representative that was more faithful and more serious about we the people than those people were?
Well, you know what? I actually had a question that I was going to ask you about that. I was trying to figure out, because I can tell you I've seen probably about 20, I don't know, I'll take a wild guess, 25 different phony reports that the Bundy Ranch was going to be attacked by the FBI, to this, to that, to this, to that. How many have you seen?
Well, from the day, over the period of time, the year, we was getting 2 or 3 of those kind of reports every day, threats and better watch out type thing. And, I'm just happy that the Spirit just always told me that it wasn't, don't worry, we're okay. And so the fear has never been put into me. I know my family and people around me, you have to pay a little bit of attention to it. But we're lucky. None of them were true. They were all just threats,
Right. Well, you're surrounded with a good group of people. A lot of people have become famous from helping you out. And, they have a big claim to fame. And one person that I've actually grown to like a lot is Buddha, because Buddha will, say I get a report on something. We do shows 5 days a week. So, we'll get a report on something, and I'll vet it through Buddha. I'll say, hey, Buddha, how true is this? And Buddha will be like, not true at all. I'm standing here enjoying the weather. I'm out with the kids at the park, whatever, and letting us know whenever it's right, whenever it's wrong, or whatever. But, I mean, you've been surrounded with a good group of people. Buddha has told us about how he, feels like he's been adopted into your family, that, he feels at home, and, that he would be there until the day that you guys ask him to leave, so on and so forth. And, I know that Buddha is the type of person that would take a bullet for you, per se. I mean, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And it's hard to express how thankful and how, somebody that loyal. But let me tell you, there's a lot of people say, well, why do you have to have militia around you? And why does Buddha have to stay with you? And first thing I have to remember when they ask that question, well, there was a time just a little over a year ago, that I had sniper rifles pointing at my chest all the time, and that wasn't a very good reality. And so, for the last year with Buddha and the other militia people, I haven't had that threat. I haven't. If I've had it, I don't know about it. And then as Buddha has traveled, and others have traveled with me also, people will say, well, what could they do? Well, let me tell you what they can do. They can show that I have protection, and they are a witness. It don't matter what happens to me, they're witnesses. And I think the biggest strength they are to me is the fact that they are a witness. And then Buddha and those people do a lot of service. They do all of the, arrangements for the travel arrangements, and keep track of my time. And they even keep track of radio stations. They're not just working as a guard, they're also working to make sure things function good for me. And I have to appreciate that a lot.
I just actually have one question. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. How did the media try to push on your family and push the guilt to the Bundy Ranch of those people that really didn't have anything to do with it that killed that cop in Las Vegas?
Well, they identified them that they had been up here during the Bundy standoff. And, of course, when they identified them then they make them want to have we the people and Bundy Ranch be the same kind of people they were. The media tried to do that. Let me tell you my feelings. When the people that come to Bundy Ranch, they were all welcome. It don't matter who they were. Those people were welcome to, as far as I was concerned. I had no idea that there was that kind of people or that kind of intent, but there were thousands of people I didn't know, and I don't know their intent. So my opinion to them was they come here, you're welcome, and exercise your own agency and do what you think's best. Now, while I was here, that's sort of what I thought was happening. But, the militia, other people could see they had a problem, and lucky we was able to ask them to leave, and they did leave. And then it was like a couple of weeks later that they pulled that bad stuff and killed a couple of cops in Las Vegas. So, we were lucky. Bundy Ranch was lucky that they moved on, I guess is what I'd have to say.
Is your sheriff more cooperative with you guys since that incident, or or still?
Well, we have a new sheriff. The old sheriff didn't run last term, so we have a new sheriff. And I did invite him, actually, with a certified letter to come to the Bundy reunion, Freedom Standoff reunion here. I don't know, it's been a couple of weeks ago now. And he, of course, I sent him a certified letter. I got the card back, but the sheriff never did respond at all.
Oh, that's too bad. That was a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, and I also did the same thing to the governor and our county commissioners and the ex-sheriff. None of them responded. So anyway, they was invited officially.
I wish we would have made the party last year, I can tell you that, because I did see pictures and videos and stuff of all the bands and the food and everybody swimming in the lake, and my God, that looked like the party of the year there.
Well, and we repeated that here on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of April of this year as a reunion, a freedom reunion, and we had I don't know exactly, probably around 400 people come 3 different days. Just everybody enjoyed, and we had some good speakers and good entertainment. I think everybody had a good time. They left wanting to have an annual reunion every year, but I just want to tell you that I want to thank those people for coming back and participating and celebrating freedom in America.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. You know, you served a lot of valuable good to America with everything that happened there, and a lot of attention besides just your ranching, which if more people understood it, the way it stands and the way your family has been there for as long as they have, and the effective ranching across all of the states that it had occurred originally. It's so much more reduced nowadays, but they tried to throw in something. They were going to protect the tortoises, but a lot was exposed in that how they had tried to set up tortoise reserves here in California, where I am from, and they didn't, or they diverted funding. So what did they do with these tortoises? Instead of just allowing them to take care of their own existence in the wild as they have for, in the case of the tortoise, millions of years, they killed them off. And
isn't that something? They're supposed to be endangered. So they actually sort of raped the American people, and especially these people of these counties, to pay for these mitigation fees to protect these tortoises. And then after 20 years, they actually euthanize the tortoise. And
that's amazing.
And so in other words, if they don't make enough money on them, then they're not worth nothing. But in the process, they in my area, they took 52 family ranchers out of business. How many miners and how many other recreationist people and everything did they take off the land in the last 20 years using the tortoise for excuse? I mean, that's that's just totally. You don't want to get me mad here, but that's totally rotten. They stole millions of dollars, not only millions of dollars, but billions of dollars from American people. And billions of dollars from these, like Clark County people. Billions of dollars they stole, and yet we let them get away with it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, too, because speaking of the tortoise there, excuse me, and it alerted a lot of people in the know, intelligent people who are involved in those areas who know better, that the tortoise, I mean, they can exist under some pretty harsh conditions, but the fact of the matter is where there are cattle, the tortoises thrive because they obtain huge amounts of nutrients. I mean, it might sound funny to folks, but from the droppings from cows, the tortoise receives an abundance of nutrients, and they thrive in environments where there are cattle. So, opposite of the claim that the cattle will endanger the tortoise and stamp them out of these areas, they actually thrive in those areas.
Well, and you could take a tortoise and put him in a kraal, in a closed-in kraal with 100 head of cattle, and the cattle will not step on that tortoise. That tortoise is like a rock. Cattle feet are tender; they don't want to step on a rock. They run on this desert. That's how they survive, is not stepping on rocks. And so you put a tortoise in a cow kraal or trail, and the cattle will walk around and step over it every time. It's just a natural thing for them to do.
Sure,
Right.
that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense big time, because I would imagine that the cattle would end up hurting itself. So,
Well, yeah, their feet are tender. Their feet are like your fingernail or toenails. You know what happens if you cut your fingernail too short? That hurts.
Yeah.
And that's the
Right.
same thing that happens to a cow if she wears her toenail off, walking back and forth to feed on these rough rocks. Her feet get sore just like your fingernail would. So she's trying to protect her feet all the time. And a tortoise would represent a rock. And she's not going to rub her feet on that rock. That's like rubbing it on a piece of sandpaper.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Do you actually have a meat company? Is that how it happens, or is that what happens with most of the cattle, or do you just sell them off to meat companies, or how's that work out?
No, most of my cattle they're sold young. Like when I wean them off the cow, they're sold young, and then they're sold to feed people that take and feed them grain and hay, and then they go into a slaughter yard. But I don't do much of that at all. My operation is a cow-calf operation on the desert, on the Mojave Desert here, where we harvest the resource. And the resource is mostly brush and grass, and coarse water. And we harvest that off this desert and make red meat out of it. And, red meat is what they make steaks and hamburgers out of. That's good stuff. That's what I do.
Absolutely, yeah. Buddha a couple times has posted pictures of him with these humongous steaks, and I'm just like, don't you do that, man. You're making my mouth water. It's like, that's not fair.
Yeah. Well, your family was committed from its first time on that land to preserving the land and the waterways and keeping them cared for. The fact that those cows, they do graze on that wild shrub that you're talking about, it also prevents fires in those areas as they nibble down most of that overage, the bulk.
Well, sure. These cattle are probably the best fire preventage they are. You take areas where you take like Southern California, for example, where you have all these huge fires, are burning all these homes down. Well, those used to be ranches, but now the cattle are gone, the ranch is gone, and the grass grows, and of course it only grows for a short period of time, then it turns dry, and there's nothing to use that grass up except fire. It's just, that grass burns like gasoline. And then the trees and browse, the browse is like brush and bushes, and those bushes grow great big and tall, and really they're good for nothing except to build a fire. Now when the range is being used right, the cattle shrub those, graze it. They eat the bushes down, the trees down, and keep them low enough and short enough. They're not creating a lot of what they call fuel, which is really basically dry wood in the plant.
Right. Hey, Bill, don't let me cut you off. We do actually have a couple callers, and I forgot about getting to the callers, and we're kind of like taking up time. And Mr. Bundy only has a few minutes left. Let us let a question or two come in before he has to go. We have a caller on the line, Jim. Jim, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, sir, and thank you so much for accepting my call. I'll be very brief. Mr. Bundy, first of all, thank you for all the delicious steaks that we enjoy here in Tampa, Florida. And secondly, sir, and in closing, and thank you for yielding the phone, I cannot, and my group cannot thank you enough for everything that you have stood for, and we are totally behind you. And yes, your wife and I are connected by email. We are watching, and we are here to support you, sir, and I yield. Bobby, thank you for allowing me to thank Mr. Bundy for his service, not only to his community, but to our country.
And Jim, thank you, because without you, which I call you we the people, without we the people, Jim, Bundy wouldn't be able to stand. And I appreciate your efforts, and I take my hat off to you, and thank you.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
go ahead, Jim. If you got another question, you're open floor right now.
No, that's fine. Again, I want to let other folks in, but again, it's a heartfelt thank you. We run a reciprocal radio show, Becky and such, and we're behind you, sir. And with that, I do yield.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know. I know we have other callers online, but you know what? I'm kind of scared to actually open up the phone lines, because if we start bringing callers in, I mean, I don't think that it's ever going to stop, and they're never going to let you out of here.
Well, give me one more. I got time for one more. How's that?
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's see here. Hang on one second. Bill, go ahead, because I got to bring in another caller. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say before Jim had come in, hi Jim, that what happened with you opened up a lot of people's eyes to what's going on in the lands that you guys and all of your fellow ranchers who have already left, and you're the last family there, and I give big props to you, and it's important, because had you not remained and taken the stand you did, most people, it's unfortunate, would not recognize the federal overreach on all of these states, claiming it as federal land. People are completely misinformed as to what federal lands are. I just wanted to thank you for this as well, because, a state is not a territory, and the federal government doesn't actually own any of this land at all. It's a huge overreach. In California, we're seeing the same agenda through the same Fish and Wildlife, the parks, the BLM getting involved with our water for fish. Some of the fish aren't even indigenous here, and yet they're diverting and wasting water that doesn't even assist in any of this. So we're seeing in California our interior, which was at one point so responsible for produce, vegetables, and fruit for a majority of our nation, and that agriculture is half dead now in our state. And so
and I realize that I'm close enough to know what that, and it's not the drought. We can't say it's the drought don't have something to do with it, but it's not the drought that's the problem here. It's the federal government and their endangered species. And this is another overreach of the bureaucracies. You see, these bureaucracies, these people that are getting paid great big amounts of wages and good retirement and health and welfare, and these people become the rulers, and they're using things like these endangered fish and these endangered tortoise and these endangered owls. They're using that as excuse, and the American people's got to become smarter than that. You've got to bring your government, quit worrying about the feds, bring your government back to we the people here at home, and start strengthening your county governments and strengthening your county sheriff, and take care of these problems at home, because the federal government's not ever going to take care of them for you.
Well, they're going to take everything away so that you have nothing left to take care of. That's what they really would like to do. And what they're trying to do, you opened a whole can of worms that might save many states, and certainly all of us, really, in the end. I mean, you have to know how this has grown. Look what the 10th Amendment Center has become since your plight there.
Well, and this is the 10th Amendment's a good example of proper form of government. On this land issue, our Constitution only allowed the United States government to have 10 miles square. That's not a very big area of America. And yet, look at what they've done. If they think they own over 50% of the western states, they don't own none of those things. But as long as the people allow it to happen, and they have for the last 100 and something years, it's going to continue. So now it's time for we the people say no, and our county sheriffs say no, and our county commissioners say no, and start using these resources for the good of man, not for animal.
Right. I see if it continues the way it is, because several of our national parks still haven't opened since they created that fake sequester a couple of years ago. If it continues the way it is, I think that the state should not only go so far as to make a solid claim on all these lands, including where ranchers such as yourself exist and function and have for a long time, but even to take back the parks and manage them for themselves within their own state boundaries.
Yeah, and why don't we believe that the parks could be even privately managed at better interest in the federal government? But for sure, our states and counties can manage those parks for cheaper and closer management. The federal government don't need to manage these things. We've got ways to manage them. And like in Nevada, we have Nevada state parks. They're managed just fine. In fact, I have a Valley of Fire Nevada State Park right close to my ranch, and I have Lake Mead Recreation Area, which is a federal one, side by side. And you can go down there, and there's not hardly one person at the federal one, and there'll be 100 at the state one. So why are the people coming to the state and not the feds? I can tell you real easy, because the feds say no parking, no hunting, no fishing, no camping, no, and the state is out running theirs. Welcome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and the cost of the federal function is absurd, like you just had mentioned. It's part of the big money laundering scheme that is the federal.
Yeah. So.
It's absurd.
Well, it's been a pleasure to talk to you people today and to talk to the world. I don't know how far out you reach, but I want to tell you that I am really appreciative of we the people. We have so much power. We need to exercise our agency, and everybody needs to be able to dream and think, and that's what our United States Constitution guarantees us. Let's pay attention to it.
God bless you, sir. Yes.
I could tell you
one thing. Attention.
We actually, our show is being listened to in 30 countries, over 30 countries now, and on average, on just Blog Talk Radio, our show on Friday nights has got an average of about 8,000 listeners. That's not counting all the other outlets and that we are being broadcasted on. Like Jim, the gentleman that asked you a question, he actually rebroadcasts us at the same time and does a simulcast, as do other ones. And we're probably being heard on a Friday night, or even on an average show, we're probably being heard by over 100,000 people, I would guess. So
and that excites me, because I want to express my love to all 100,000 plus people And again, I want to tell you, I understand what you need as individuals is agency, to be able to think and dream. And in America, that's what America stands for, and that's what our Constitution represents, is freedom for we the people. And we fought for it. We're going to keep fighting for it, and we're going to insist that we have it and our generations to come to have it. And I'm talking about freedom and liberty. I wish that for all men on earth. And thank you, and have a good night.
Yeah, that word is accompanied by a lot of respect going back at you as well. You really should know that there's a huge amount of love and respect for what you've done.
Absolutely,
and
Bill. There is a tension, not a tension, but an aura in the air, if I may just interrupt again. God bless you, sir. And Bill, good to hear from you. Look at us. This is what we need to do, is back the spearheader, and I yield.
Well, and thank you. This is coming from me, sir. Thank you very much. I want you to please thank your beautiful wife. She's the one that, I actually was in contact with, and she made this all happen. And I told her, she completely made my week when, she had talked to you the other day about it. And she completely made my week, and I think that she also made a lot of other people's week to be able to hear, your message, and we appreciate it. And I want to thank you, sir. And if you ever have anything that you would like to share with us or want to come back on for any reason, you have open platform with us. So, and I thank you so much.
Okay, and thank you, and I will tell my lovely wife how lovely she really is. and thank you. Invite me back. That's what you need to do. Invite me back, and I'll be happy to come. Hey, thank you.
We appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, that was Cliven Bundy, Mr. Cliven Bundy himself. I would never call him by his first name. It's Mr. Cliven Bundy. If You can never just call that man Cliven Bundy. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. You better use the word Mr. when you address him. And I that's just the way I feel about it. I think that the man demands respect for everything that he's done for this country. And, you know, a lot of people knock him. They talk bad about him and everything else, but that's because they don't understand, okay? They go, hey, the government says that he owes $1 million. The government says that he owes on his taxes and this and that and, you know, whatever. That's the same people that don't understand the whole thing that's going on, what happened with the government and everything else. The government is a bunch of liars, it's a bunch of crooks, and it's a bunch of thieves. So
don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Yeah, I don't. You know what? I don't want to make this I don't want to make this that type of show. Okay, we had a great guest on tonight. You know what? But right now, I just want to say one thing right now. I know there's a lot of people listening. Okay. There's a lot of people listening right now, and I know it because I actually looked at the stats, you know, to see who's listening and everything else. People, where the hell are you? Seriously, we have a man of this stature on the show, okay? We have a man of this stature on the show, and you guys are not here. Where are you? I mean, this would have been a beautiful platform to come in and ask some nice questions. Okay, we did a good interview with them, and I'm glad that Bill had wonderful questions, Becky in the beginning, so on and so forth. And I think we did a really good interview. But, you know, people, seriously, you had a lot of questions for him. This is the time that you ask a man that, you know, that can give you all the answers, and that's it. So, I mean, I'm not going to say anything bad. We did a good show. So, and with that, I thank you, Bill, for asking questions, and Jim and Becky, of course.
You know, I look forward to the fact that you can bring him back on. And when he has things going on or events that he creates or other things that start to occur, you know, he can inform you and, you know, you have additional shows that you can create around this. I think a lot can happen from this because more and more people's eyes will be opened up to just how what he went through actually involves all of us. We're seeing it in California to where, unfortunately, with the corruption we have here, our state governor is even creating executive orders to try and impose what the federal government tried to impose upon him. So he's done a huge service. He's done a huge service.
Right. Well, he opened up a beautiful door for us there by saying, invite me back on and everything. I mean, I think he enjoyed the interview, and, you know, I'm sure he didn't know what to expect, never being on with us before, even though we're friendly with Buddha, you know, and I had been in contact with Mrs. Bundy, you know, to get him on, but he doesn't know who the hell we are. Are we going to ask him some sidewinded questions and, you know, and make him feel uncomfortable? I don't think so at all. I think he enjoyed it very much.
Oh, he's awesome. I love that guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I don't have very many idols in my life, okay? And there's only a few. Man, I wouldn't consider him my idol, but I would consider him somebody that I look up to. You know what I mean? And I have a lot of respect for.
You don't have any hidden statues in your closet, then, huh?
No. I don't have, what do they call that? A shrine? No, I don't have no shrines or anything. But
I didn't mean necessarily about him. I mean any idol.
I do have a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots that I have put to the side, though. No, I'm kidding.
She probably do. I wonder if Becky does, Gee. I know.
You know Becky's got cowboy boots. There's no doubt about it. All right,
of course she does.
Let's start getting to Week in Review. We have a lot to cover with Week in Review. This has been a week from hell. You know, with all the things going on, I mean, we don't even have to talk about the whole Oregon situation and the BLM and all that going on there. You know, I mean, even though yesterday they did have a little thing going on there where a helicopter kept landing and going back up in the air. I mean, that's kind of goofy. But a lot of military installments being moved across the country again. What do you guys know?
Yeah, I was reading a post today, and I didn't get a chance to really get into the whole depth of it because I jumped into the show here as you were starting it. But a gentleman who had spent 30 years in the military, and part of the time assigned to a wing command, had mentioned that most of the Blackhawks and the other birds from his state had departed, and that the excuse they used was for maintenance purposes. But he confirmed, because part of his responsibility during his military career was that, well, all the pre-flight and post-flight and maintenance for these done on the base right there, and that they're not sent out for any kind of maintenance. So he's obviously saying, either from the know or within close related suggestion, that there have been aircraft, primarily helicopters, that have left his state under a pretense, obviously not being true, because being said that they were departed for maintenance would be an outright lie, considering that would all be done on the base. So I don't recall what state he was from, but that it was going to Texas. Texas.
Well, imagine that, I mean, you can't expect him to tell you the truth, because if he did, then he could be court-martialed and so on and so forth, and, whatever. But
he's retired now, so he's no longer in. So he was speaking out.
Okay, but he wouldn't be able to collect that check, though, every month if they found out who he was and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I'll find it and we can share it later.
This is the question that I have. A lot of people were saying that it was a lie, but, I guess Iran pulled in one of the ships out at sea and had 24 sailors that they were holding, captive and stuff. Some people were saying it was a United States ship. Some people were saying that they were flying a flag from a corporation and it was U.S. sailors. I don't know, because I wasn't able to vet the information, but, I mean, I got probably like 7 different reports, and all the reports were different. Was anybody able to vet any of the information on what was really the situation with that ship?
It seems like the common piece of information in the thread is that it was a civilian cargo vessel, and that I heard the same thing that you did, that it flew an American flag, so to speak, whether it was a company flag or obviously it probably contained both flags.
Well, they called the destroyer out to go help out in the recapture of it. Now, I haven't heard any more information about it, but to my understanding, 24 of the sailors that were on board were United States citizens. Becky, do you know anything?
I heard that they were Dutch from Denmark. We heard they were American. I never got anything solid on it, and honestly, mainstream media, as usual, didn't lend much ear to it. You know what I mean? They didn't sensationalize or cover it to any great degree in my area. So,
it was squashed pretty quick.
Yeah, but I will tell you this. It's very concerning to me that an American vessel, a merchant ship, whether it's a military craft or it's a merchant craft, to have a hostile takeover is unacceptable. I'm sorry, it just is. And it should have been dealt with accordingly. It should have been dealt with by the military. But the problem is we're being governed under a one world government, so now it is a one world military, and the posturing that these so-called countries are doing with their military forces, I would guess that it's a lot of theater.
Do you want to get into some of that, Becky, that you're talking about the EU president and all that?
Oh, absolutely. We covered it on the show, but I'm sure people that didn't, catch that show that we did this week. There is a video, and I posted up the link, so did Gene, where in 2009, during the EU conference, the EU president at the time, boldly states that it was official and that we were under a world governance was in place and implemented. It was being exercised. So the video states as such and was received with happiness and joy from the lead. So
and he reported that in the UN as an unofficial person, actually standing with greater authority above even them.
Yes, exactly.
So that shows his representation from those families, who will even go so far as to use, and this is something I've been trying to warn people about for the last 5 years, is that the UN is simply a body that serves these families who are the same people who have taken over our banks and our country. And that the UN is simply their tool.
Yes, it's their mafia. It's their mafia. It's their soldier. The most disturbing part of this for me personally, because of the research that's been done, the information that's been given, the vetting that has been done, this is genuine, folks. This is not, tinfoil hat conspiracy, nothing like that. This is a video of that conference. Now, here's the problem. 2009, we all know that Obama is a usurper. We all know he's not eligible. We've all had the questions, why the hell wouldn't the military do something? Why wouldn't Congress do something? Why wouldn't the Sergeant of Arms do his job? Well, here's your answer. 2009, that's who put him in the seat. We all know that voting was a theater. It was a big fiasco. Then all of the controversy over the illegal votes and the dead voters, it's nothing but to keep you distracted. First of all, folks, I'm going to cover it again real quick. Your vote doesn't mean squat when it comes to the
and the fact that a good portion of our votes were actually counted in Europe, which is a complete violation.
Well, it was in Spain. It was in Spain, 40 some odd percent. I can't remember the exact number. And it was done by a company that is owned by George Soros. And all you folks out there who've been listening, you know who that cockroach is. So he's a global and economic terrorist is what he is. He's a terrorist. Pardon?
I was just going to say, in further verification of what you're saying, was given just a couple years later, and I mentioned this on Wednesday as well, but it's pertinent to add to it where people hear what you're saying. The verification was shared in the stance of Eric Holder as he spoke on national television, looking right into the cameras, and stated directly that international law overrides the Constitution in America.
He did. He did say that. And this is why they laugh at you when you start trying to stand on constitutional right. They have, listen, the coup d'etat is done. It's finished. I believe the Jade Helm operation, that this 1,200 people, what a crock of shit. They've moved thousands of pieces of equipment and military aircraft. So these 1,200 special ops that are going to do these special operations that are nothing more than military exercises to prepare for war abroad is bullshit. I'm telling you people right now, it is bull cocky because it has now grown from 7 states to over 30 states of movement. We've already seen the exercises take place in some areas. They told us July 15th through September. You know, I was talking with Fletcher. They said that the time frame was July 15th to September 15th that these exercises would occur, correct? Am I correct?
Yeah. Hey, is Jim still on the line?
Yeah, Jim, you there?
Because I want to ask him a question.
I am here.
Because I keep hearing, because we already know, as Becky is inferring to right now, that they're already kind of operating under what they started, that said that they wouldn't even start until July, but we're seeing some of it now. I've heard people in Florida tell me, and I haven't spoken with anyone I know, whether you've been through it or not, I'm curious, but that they're already seeing road stops where people are being questioned, like where they're going, why they're going, proving who they are. Is that happening?
Yes.
Have you seen it yourself?
Yes, I have seen it personally myself.
How does it happen?
Bill, as you and I have talked about, I see a lot of staging behind like racetrack gas stations. I'm not sure what they're called in others areas, fast gas or whatever, but, huge, 32 to 64 pumps and a huge store. Wawa is a good example. I see them staging, and I have for the last year, behind these stores, especially on holidays. And at first glance, it was like, okay, maybe they're staging for DUI checkpoints or whatever. But, I'd say, Bill, 60 to 70% of these folks are in the white boots and the military garb. Now, to fast forward to the last 90 days, it is all over the place. And I shared with a couple folks in my personal neighborhood 2 nights ago at 3 a.m., 2 black, what appeared to be like Brinks-type trucks, if you will, money trucks, which we've all seen at most of the trucks that, on these rail cars appear to be, armored cars. And, Bill, these things were jet black, man, jet black. My IR cameras picked them up. But something, and they were back in my neighborhood for 35 minutes or so. I spoke with Becky about this today, and there's only one reason. And what I'm doing is putting some pieces together to answer your question. They have just upgraded a substation, and I've been in this property for 10 years now. They upgraded this sub-power station almost 80% over what it's been. There's no new construction or anything that would require that. And not to be long-winded and burn up the time, but there's a lot of strange shit going on right here in the outskirts of Tampa. I'm not in the city. I'm out in the county, but still.
Yeah.
And real quick, and let me shut up real quick here. Let me just answer one thing too, Bill. The Brandon Walmart, that's 25 miles to my northeast, and that was a clean, well-populated, well-shopped store. Okay, so what the hell's going on? Yeah.
Well, it's one of the ones that's been closed then.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah.
But so have you actually driven through or avoided a public road checkpoint yet?
I have not seen myself because 99% of my business is telecommuting, but I have a lot of eyes and ears here. And yes, there are people, and they're basically, the reports I get are, good morning, ma'am. Or good morning, sir. Have you been drinking this morning, and where are you coming from, and where are you going? And well, shit. Wow. Okay, hey, it's 8:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. I'm probably heading to my office. But no one, Bill, is willing to take my advice to get in their face. That's right. No one will take my advice as of yet, and that's why we've been doing these constitutional shows with Attorney Tom. Right here, Attorney Tom's in St. Pete, I'm in Tampa. And that's the point of us doing these shows is here's what you say, and to be a lady or a gentleman, and basically the way you say it is, get the fuck out of my face, it's none of your damn business. When's the last time the TSA caught a terrorist, Bill? But they're going to grope my girlfriend. I mean, it's all the same thing. And in closing, to your question, I don't want to go out there and pick a fight with anybody. But when you start picking a fight with me subliminally or slowly over the course of time when I know it's obvious, guess what? I'm going to come back. And if we congregate and push the message and again, if I may tie this in, was the prosecutor's message out of Baltimore today simply a poo-poo to kick the can down the road, which will be much more explosive than today? Or are these people actually waking up, Bill, and are they saying, oh boy, Because if we cut the head off, I think the medium, the high level to medium folks in the basic system of our country will come around, and with that, I promise I yield. But that's my hope.
Gotcha.
Well, we've got a lot of Fletcher just sent me a quick text, and Fletch interjected. He says we have a lot of major construction state interchanges, and we've received videos, we're receiving pictures, reports. I know I was having my coffee yesterday morning. I guess it was probably 5 o'clock in the morning. Whoop, 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 whoop. Over my house, I look out. There's 3 Blackhawks in formation, flying southwest. Why? Why am I seeing this activity? That's why I'm saying we are under one world governance, and I'm not good with what's going on, because this explains why Congress would not remove a mole, let alone a tyrant, if he were eligible. The Sergeant of Arms, the Supreme Court, the military. Now let's talk about the destination of the military. He has removed over 3,000 people. 3,000. Let that resonate. 3,000 heads of military, from lieutenants to brass. Okay? Decommissioned officers in the middle of duty. He's removed the missile defense system off the southwestern quadrant of America, and then right after that, they opened the gates of hell up on the border. We've got terrorist cells here. Listen, I guarantee you at least 1/3 of the population in America right now is Muslim. Can guarantee.
Do we have any military people on the line right now?
Pardon?
Do we have any military people on the line right now? I'm just curious, because a lot of these guys were removed. Now, they opt to stay. Most of these guys make a whole career out of it. So, they continuously, when the time that they extend themselves to is up, they re-up for X number of years further. And so, and from that date until that last date, they're in. Now, to remove them sooner, don't they have to either have good call or take them up on some kind of a discharge for some kind of reason in order to remove them early?
You would think that for sure,
Yeah, you would, but we're not talking about just anybody. We're talking about a world government. We're talking about...
but I need just to point it out that shouldn't there be some form of a court martial or some kind of standing that has to be justified?
I do each one of them differently. If they are a threat to whatever is going on here and now, and they want to go against whatever Obama and his little elite are trying to do, then I would imagine that they probably work them through the system to get them the hell out.
Well,
if
that
it's
should
somebody
be declared.
that's supporting, if it's somebody that's supporting everything that they're doing and a yes sir, no sir type person, then it's probably a whole different situation.
Well, that's just evidence,
I've seen a bunch of military convoys today in Illinois on one of the highways that I drive back and forth all day long. I've seen a small military convoy. I don't know, it was probably about 20 vehicles, something like that, and they were rolling. Somebody said that it was probably the reserves going out, to practice or whatever. Then, I don't know, probably about 3 hours later, I seen like 3 helicopters flying together, and I couldn't tell if they were Apaches or Blackhawks, but I mean, there was 3 of them flying together, and they were in formation, pretty much going the same direction that the convoy was going.
But you look in the sky every day. How often do you see 3 helicopters together going anywhere?
Well, in Illinois, actually quite often, and I'll tell you why. Where I used to live before, Obama flew over my house on a daily basis. Okay? So I used to see ospreys like almost, not every day. I'd be a liar if I told you every day. We've seen him probably at least once or twice a week, and we used to see ospreys all the time. They used to shake our house because they were so low. Where I live at now, I'm not in the airport's path for him to fly to where he lived and so on and so forth. So I'm off the beaten path now, so I don't really see that much activity where I live. Now,
you saw them often. Had you lived next to a golf course, you would have seen them even more, right?
Yeah, right. You know what? I'm gonna tell you where I've seen them the most. I don't know why, but at nighttime, when I used to work where I work at now, I worked at nighttime. They used to fly over a cemetery, this huge cemetery. They used to fly over it with their lights off all the time. It used to scare the crap out of me because this was like 3-4 years ago, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. And I'm talking about like 5 and 6, 7 copters all together with no lights on them or nothing, and they're just creeping over this damn cemetery. And it's like, all right, what the hell is going on? You know, and at the time, I didn't really know as much as I know now. You know, so, I mean, it was like, wow, you know, I was actually kind of, ooh, wow, ooh, you know, but now it's kind of like, what in the hell are those jagoffs doing, you know?
Right.
Well, I propose this, gentlemen. I propose this, based on the information we now know, that we are under foreign government, one world order. We know that they've taken over industry and banking. The last thing that they have to do is take out the American people. That's a must, because they've got everything else lined up. They've already taken care of the rest of it, and we are armed. They have unsuccessfully made several attempts to create situations to push for disarmament, and they have been unsuccessful. How are they going to disarm us? Well, they're going to contain us. Now, with that said, we know that if we look at the maps and the population of America, and we look at the non-constitutional zone, if you will, that they painted around America, where you don't have any rights whatsoever, it borders the entire country. Logistically speaking, in order to take over an area, you must first surround it and divide perimeter. So what I see them doing with Jade Helms is this. The largest population, and this should really be alarming and concern people. Listen, I've preached about Islam, preached about it until I'm blue in the face. Our government not only arms the terrorist groups and trains them around the globe, they have also brought them into America to be used as foot soldiers against the resistance of the patriots. I guarantee you that's why they're here. They've just received their booty up front, if you will. The free money for the businesses, the privatized deals that give them the luxuries that Sharia law claims for them, no taxation, no interest on loans, all of that. Well, if you look at the population map, the largest population is in the major cities for Muslims or the outer perimeters of the USA as well. So they're surrounding us. They're in our inner cities. They own the small to medium business infrastructure for sure. They're dominating that. So they're well funded. It's free money. They come over here with nothing. They set them up in business. They start taking your dollars for goods and services. They give them to their brothers and sisters and their terrorist family across the globe, but they also have been buying up property and industry and setting up a mosque, almost as many mosques in Houston as there are convenience stores on every corner. You know, they're fast approaching 100 mosques in Houston, just in Houston. So, and that's very important because that's a port town. That's Gulf Port down there. That's very, very strategic what they've done with them there. So we know that they decimated military, completely destroying it. We're now number 7. We went from 1 to 7 in strength and respect as far as military force. That should really be alarming to you. He's decommissioned several ships, warships. He's taken down the defense system on the southwestern quadrant. He just lined Cuba up as another ally. So here's what we got going on. We know in the South Americas, Venezuela, Honduras, Mexico, he formed a coalition with them to start running those foreign nationals, those foreign invaders into America through the borders, okay? In fact, the Venezuelan government was in bed with the Mexican government and forming coalition to give clean and fair pathway to go through Mexico so that they could invade the country, his citizens, without being attacked or detained. So now what we have is no defense system, no border, stand-down orders, a governor who's either spineless or on the take. We've got no missile defense system. China owns the shipping merchant company that the Chinese government owns, has now got a port in Long Beach, California that Clinton gave them. So China now has interest. So they can, in the event of war, they can deploy their troops here under the Geneva Convention to serve purpose to protect their interests. We know that they have properties in Texas. We know they have them all over the country. So does Russia. You can pull up that information, by the way, on the Internet to see what foreign businesses are in your state and in your city. And it would behoove you to do so because those are the troops that are going to be approaching us. Now, Obama being the commander-in-chief of the military for the USA, now he also is in control of the UN troops. And this is very important, folks, very important. We already have evidence, videotape and pictured evidence that foreign troops are here in America participating in the Jade Helm operation. I also would suspect that foreign individuals are sporting the American uniform and are participating. This is an act of war on the American people by its own government. They are participating in Jade Helm. Now, that means the UN troops are here, so all you folks that have been looking for those little blue helmets, you're probably not going to find them because they're going to be in an American uniform. They're just going to have an accent.
You know, I'm a member of the National Association for Gun Rights. Sorry to interrupt. I just got an
I need you to interrupt.
I just got another email from them. They've been battling. I guess there's a coalition of different agencies and groups of which George Soros and President Barack Obama and some of the other anti-gun pals are involved with. But they're going after the National Association for Gun Rights, NAGR, pretty hard right now, threatening to shut them down completely. What they're demanding is that the names and addresses of every one of their membership and supporters are turned over to them.
I'm one of those. We're in trouble, aren't we? Well, you know, I'm trying to take this understanding.
Survey says,
Yeah, I know, right? I'm trying to paint this picture for people of reality. They're going to disarm us. They are surrounding us. They're mapping zones. They're getting the conditioning for the people, for their presence to be here. They're setting up command centers, command posts. We have evidence in Midland, Texas, that that's in fact what they're doing with that closed Walmart. There's military equipment everywhere at the one in Midland, and I've not had any reports from the others, but I haven't asked. So I would suggest that Jade Helm, this 1,200 people has grown to hundreds of thousands of military people because look at the amount of equipment that's being moved. Look at the amount of aircraft. You know, there's no way that's 1,200 people. That's hundreds of thousands of people over several states. This is the takeover, in my opinion.
I would suggest everyone also take a look at the Stand Up America website and read some of what they've been posting lately, some of the information that they're sharing and giving out, and perhaps look at some of their most current articles, Becky and Bobby, and decide which particular topic you might be most interested in. And I think that we could get in touch with Major General Paul Vallely, retired, or one of his people to maybe come into one of your shows and speak on one of these particular topics. And perhaps even after that, we can extend it into a general conversation like we're having now about some of this. But I think that if you and Bobby look at some of the stuff that's current for them, we could get a topic for the invite, and then from there we can see how far we can extend it.
Well, I would really like to do that, and I'd really be curious to know where all of these officers have disappeared to, and why are we not hearing anything from them? You know, couple the Muslim population is here, the terrorist cells that we know are here, the intentional depositing of those under the guises that they're migrants and they're coming in under some kind of humanitarian, relief for asylum for whatever reason. We're in trouble. We're in huge trouble, especially here in Texas, man. We know they fund the drug cartel. We know that for a fact. Nobody was held accountable. We also know the drug cartel is working with ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Boko Haram, and God knows what other groups that they call themselves.
Well, yeah, look where the Fast and Furious guys went.
Yes. And we've got an ISIS camp that's confirmed. Sergeant Briggs from InfoWars went over to Mexico and filmed it and reported on it. Yes.
8 miles.
Right.
Yeah, he found it.
Yeah, and our government's got my border open. That's on the Texas border.
Well, hey,
y'all.
Becky, and then didn't our beloved sergeant, his driver received a call from the local FBI office, field office, and you're not in trouble, but we want to talk to you. And what happened from there, if I may interrupt and ask, because I kind of fell off and went on to other things. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, they got called in. They wanted to see the tapes. They wanted to know what information that Joe Biggs found out, and they were actually trying to take InfoWars off the air for that. It was a big investigation that they did.
Well, if nothing's wrong, then why, A, wouldn't they applaud him, and B, why, if this one single gentleman, with the backing of the Alex Jones mission, why are we gathering intel that our paid agencies should be gathering on our behalf, is my question.
That's a very good question. Well, I can answer that. It's because our government's in on it. Listen, they've been placed there strategically. They're being funded by the American government and the Mexican government. Obama has been making love to the Mexicans well before he got into office. And here's another question. Why the hell did Governor Christie go meet with the Mexican president? Can anybody answer that?
Good question, Beck. Excellent question, my friend.
Oh, you mean like Charlie Brown does all the time over here? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to question, why did Christie meet with him?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that the representation, you asked about Congress earlier and all that, but I know you were just leading to making a point that these people, they represent a corporation that doesn't even regard the people here at all. It's just a matter. The only problem that they have with the people is that we're still armed so that they can't make their conquest official. So, yeah. And Christie obviously is working as closely with any of them as any of them. Or with all of them as any of them.
Well, let me ask another question. Why is the Federal Reserve being moved from New York to Chicago?
You just brought up something. I got breaking news.
Good question, Kemosabe.
Hey, you know what? I've got breaking news that I wanted to tell you guys about. And I forgot about this. There is going to be an investigation done. Yesterday, my truck broke down. Okay, well, I was at work. I had a problem with it, whatever. So I got picked up by another driver, and as we're driving, we come off the highway, and I see 3 big buses in front of me going down this side street. So all of a sudden I look, and I'm like, what the hell's in this area? And the driver that works for me told me, he goes, oh, you didn't know? He goes, that's that place where they take all the people that come in from Mexico and stuff. I go, what? Really? Wow. He goes, yeah. He goes, there's buses in and out of there all the time. He goes, they bring people in and they take them out. They bring them in, they take them out. Mostly all, like Mexican people and stuff. And I said, really? He said, yeah, it's right there. So we actually drove down the street and he pointed at the building for me. So now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find somebody that can use a dash cam that can maybe set up over there for a day or two just to see what kind of activity it is, and maybe we can, do a video on it and release some information.
Better yet would be to get a Spanish-speaking person to infiltrate with them and actually go through the process themselves directly.
Well, hey, Bobby, email me the lat long and let me see who's in the area, okay? Seriously. So this is in the Chicago, Illinois region?
Bellwood, Illinois. Bellwood, Illinois.
Okay, Elwood, wow. Gotcha. This is the kind of call to action that we can even send a couple $100 worth of hardware to somebody that's willing to go park their car there, or, frankly, do a stakeout, the good old-fashioned stakeout with a little tiny ATM camera on the dashboard, and all you're doing is reading the paper and having a donut. Yeah. They want to be sneaky. We need to get sneakier.
Oh, no good investigator would go out there without a whole box of donuts, Jim. Come on.
Well, you got to bribe the cops that figure out what you're doing. Okay, come on, Tubby. Here, have a chocolate cream fill, man. And look, I got hot coffee in my Coleman thermos. Now, go on, Tubby. Go on. Bye-bye. And I mean that with all due respect, but we have to have a little fun here, especially on a Friday.
Well, especially
great show, by the way, folks. Great show, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to say that I'm wrong in my estimation as to what the truth is about what's going on, but everything points to it. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, and I'm sure as hell not happy with my governor and his retarded notion that he's going to send our unarmed National Guard or State Guard to go babysit the military special ops and foreign troops.
Did he say unarmed? Did he say unarmed?
Oh, man, when he sent our State Guard down to the border, he sent them unarmed. Not him, but Perry. 45 days it took him to dispatch.
How the hell can you send anybody in to do such job, ladies and gentlemen? Man, unarmed. I mean, that's like his thugs behind him that guard him. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm being silly here, but I choked on my frickin' coffee. Are you unarmed?
Yeah. I mean,
coffee.
Listen, it makes no sense. Why
Well, it's
would
Friday, so it's coffee with a little Jack Daniels in there, you know.
So I'm going to tell you guys what I'm going to do, what I propose to do, and you tell me if you think I'm stepping outside the guideline that's going to get me thrown in the pokey. I want to find a constitutional sheriff who will deputize citizens and militia. I want to go down unannounced, day and time unannounced, so they can't counter it with a bunch of, yeehaw protesters or whatever. Or if he can't run away, I want to go to the governor's mansion if he's not at the Capitol, and I want to call him out. I want to call him out and demand that he come out and speak to
Amen,
people.
Becky. And you know what? I'm friends with, and she's been on the show, and she is very, like you, Becky, willing to have her name. Belinda Brooks. She's mayor of Lucky, Ohio. She's been on Dan Rather. I know her from the foreclosure mess because they fucked with the wrong woman there. And honorable sheriff of Lucky, Ohio, does that deputize me across the planet? We need the white hats to vet us, deputize us, and then we respect the boundaries of said, I'm going to call it a personal sanction. I'm going to deputize you because you have the responsibility as my neighbor to come help me. You see what I mean? I think that is a very viable channel, and I yield, yes.
I want to remain lawful. I'm not a lawless person, and I'm not making any threats.
Oh, absolutely, my friend. Absolutely, absolutely.
I am simply stating that, A, he's subservient to me. He doesn't govern over me. He governs for me. And if he doesn't know that, it needs to be made clear that is the way government is supposed to operate. And we're going to hold his feet to the fire.
And we're here to back him or her in the event that they need the backing in case they get the pressure from a lobbyist. Yes, ma'am.
Listen,
amen.
Jim, I even said that on my Spreaker program. I stated that, sir, if you will protect the citizens of Texas, we know you're going to catch hell. We know you're going to catch resistance. We know there are people bigger than you that are pushing a fork in your back. But here's the deal. You stand up for us right now, and we'll defend you to the death. And I mean
Applause.
that.
Applause, Miss Williams. Applause.
You know what? Let me interfere with everybody here. I actually am almost home, so I'm going to be leaving so you guys can carry on. I just want to do a couple things here. I want to thank everyone that joined the show, everybody that listened to the show, and most of all, I want to thank Mr. Cliven Bundy and Carol Bundy for getting Mr. Bundy to say yes to come on to the show, so on and so forth. I want to thank you all so much for joining the show. It's been such a honor to have a great show today and have great people involved with me. And also to all the listeners, without any of you, I will say this until the day that this show never happens again, without all of you, we are nothing, okay?
Amen.
With you people listening, we are growing. We're going to try to keep bringing you the best of interviews that we possibly can. As of right now, Monday at 4 or 4:30 p.m., Tom Luju from Bunker Report will be joining us. That's for now. Things change all the time with Tom because of what he does for a living. I get it. I respect it. That's all I can do. But other than that, supposedly he's going to be joining us Monday for Bunker Report. As you guys know, Tom has a huge following. He has a lot of followers, a lot of listeners, and he's got a lot to say because there's a lot going on right now, in his what he is an expert in. So when he comes on, that's going to be a big show. So, but I'm going to sign off. I mean, I'm sorry that I intruded, but I mean, I'm home now, so I mean, I can't, fiddle faddle and everything else. So, but great show with everybody. I enjoyed, having Mr. Cliven Bundy on. And please, everybody, when we release this show tonight, if you can, share it with a friend, with a family member, with somebody that has the same interests as all of us, that's fighting the good fight, okay? Because this is a lot of good information that you could be sharing everybody that you know, okay? And with that, I stand, and the fiddler, I don't know who the fiddler is, but okay. So I actually, whoever, I get it. But with that, I'm gone, and you guys enjoy the rest of the show, and carry on, and thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Hey, so Becky?
All right, brother, you have a good weekend,
okay.
and I'll talk to you later.
So, Becky, I wanted to add something to what you were saying because, part of this big Jade Helm thing is the use of National Guard. And so, obviously, they're taking federal orders, and they're under federal orders and control right now. But there's one lawful, because you were talking about wanting to be lawful, there's one lawful means of which these National Guardsmen can break from under federal control, and that is if a state governor calls for his National Guard, his state under a state of emergency, even if it's precautionary, without a disaster, just as a precautionary measure. So if the Texas governor wanted to have his easy way to actually side up with the people and take a stand here, all he has to do is call for the National Guard for his state, and according to all of the lawful structure and sanctions that these guys serve in the National Guard, and they obey the president and do all of this stuff, without being AWOL, they are allowed lawfully to walk from one command to the other, from the federal control to their governor under their state. That doesn't mean that they have to, although it's known that a majority they should, obviously. I mean, they have the call. But they can leave the federal control and orders and walk back under their governor if the governor so calls for it. And that's at the point when you would actually have the governor authorize the cooperation with the state militia and all the sheriffs. So there is a means. Yeah, because there is the means there for all this to happen. It just needs to be exercised. Although, most people, they're not aware of it. They don't talk about it. They have had no need to even know about it in the past. It's just, as long as we're willing to be blind and unaware, which is why false flags work so well, because most people are just not aware of certain things. But as long as that's the case, they can do all of these things. They can say all of these lies, and they can get away with all this. But once we know something, we can hold people accountable to enforce them or expose the fact that they're not doing.
Well, I'm gonna have a lawyer or a judge, and Jim, you could be an avenue for that. Draw up the official demands legally. Put the statutes of the U.S. Code concerning tyranny, aiding and abetting, and the article as Commander-in-Chief, what his responsibilities are in the state of Texas, and hand-deliver them to him in person. I am not going to let him evade or avoid that confrontation. Therefore, I will not announce the date or the time.
Well, a suit, Becky, is the best, absolutely the best way. Unfortunately, the defensive side of anyone that you sue is going to have their little malicious way of suggesting that, listen, I know, and you and I don't give a rat's ass, but, now you're filing a frivolous lawsuit. This isn't frivolous.
Jim. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying, sir. This isn't a lawsuit. This is a demand. This isn't even a request. This is
okay.
an absolute
no.
demand.
Go for it, honey. I got you.
Yeah. It's a demand for the governor to perform his duties, his first duty to the citizens in the state, which is to secure that border, to stop aiding and abetting the invaders, to exile them from the state. Listen, the best way to get rid of them is cut their shit off. Okay, the demand is you cut every benefit. I don't give a shit if it's federal or not.
Hey, honey, buddy, I'm still trying to figure out how to cut the water cooling system off to the NSA, because that'll kill that entire monster.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
There's a bunch of people working on that right now. They've got suits going for that. But we don't have time for a suit. We're running out of time. We don't have time to dick around, basically. We've got to handle our situation now. Colorado has already exercised its right, and we all know strategically and logistically what Colorado means to NORAD and the bunkers. We already know about that. So it stands with good reason that they've given a go to Colorado to bow out of their little operation. But let's just say, for theory's sake, if Colorado's governor can do it, then so can anybody else. Any other governor can bow out of this participation with Jade Helm, and that's what the people of Texas want. We don't want them here. We do not want them here. There's no purpose for them being here. They need to pack their shit up, and they need to get on down the road.
Get the fuck out of here, right.
Absolutely. They need to tear their ass. Don't let the door hit you on your way out. Get out of Texas. We don't want you here. You have no purpose here. We're already painted as a hostile environment for the Jade Helm operation. That was probably my fault. You know what I'm saying?
Bad Becky.
Yeah.
That's my code name for you. And by the way, we're posting for you until you get sprung, my friend.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I caught a felony. But we've got a lot of things that are going on. This weekend here in Dallas-Fort Worth, we've got the Pavement 8 Black Lives Matter protesters that are going to be all over Dallas and Fort Worth, because they're too damn ignorant to understand that they're going about things the wrong way. And actually, they just see this as an opportunity to get out and wreak havoc on the rest of the world and get away with it. So for the people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please be mindful, especially, and I'm not trying to make this a racial thing, it's just fact, please be mindful that you will most likely be a target if you run into these thugs that are going to be turned loose on society this weekend in the Dallas-Fort Worth
Becky, it does, excuse me, but apparently the Webster's Dictionary term of thug has been abridged here in the recent 30 to 45 days. So does thugs equate to nigger?
Well, nigger's a culture. Nigger is a culture. It's not a color. Nigger is a culture. And I actually have two niggers in my family that are blood relations. One is Charla and the other is Valerie, and they're both white as hell. But to be quite honest, a thug is also a culture. It's a lawless mentality. It is disrespect. I mean, it's a number of things. So yes, in fact, it would be basically yes and no. Again, lawlessness is not a respecter of persons. It's not a respecter of color or gender or age. There is no discrimination. It comes in age. It doesn't matter. I mean, it comes in every color. It comes in every age. It comes in every gender. But with that said, for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, my hometown, where I happen to reside, please be mindful when you're out. If you're going to be out at Mayfest or some of the other events that are taking place this weekend, I think it's Arbor Days and a few other functions, always be mindful. If you have to still carry a permit, please carry your weapon. Watch your surroundings and always have a way out. Somebody's making a hell of a lot of noise in the background. make sure that you have a way out.
Yeah,
of
if Rudy's on, he's probably doing the dishes, but it's not me back.
No,
I heard. Yeah.
It's me, you, and Bill. But I'm going to wrap the show up. I have something that I have to do this weekend, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Thank you all for coming. Jim, thank you for running me through. Somebody's doing a whistle in the background. It's only me, you, and Bill, so I'm assuming it's BNSA.
Yeah,
it was the wind. I just stepped out from coverage from the wind. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
Anyway, Becky, we love you big, and we're going to have you on Bank versus You starting this Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We look forward to that. I invite everyone to come. We're not selling anything, and I'm not chastising anyone that does, but we're going to have real talk about real items amongst real people, and I'm very excited about that, Becky. God bless you, and you have yourself, a relaxing evening tonight. You need a break, as we all do, and I hope you take that opportunity to take the break tonight, okay?
Absolutely. Y'all have a blessed night. Bill, thank you for coming on to the listeners. 2 p.m., I'll get the link posted up somehow for everybody, but at 2 p.m., Bank versus You Sunday, be there, be square. I love you guys. Y'all have a good night.
Be safe. Good night, Bill. Love you too, Bill. Be safe.
Love you too,
good evening, folks.
Thank you for listening to Rage Against the Regime Radio. Don't be a stranger. Please like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter at RATR Podcast. And feel free to leave some feedback whenever you listen to us. You can also email us at rageagainsttheregimepodcast@gmail.com.